Color. Good morning and welcome to the June 3rd, 2025 Division of Family and Children's Services Advisory Board. I'm Jennifer Shimpo. I'm the chairman of the board for 2025. And I would love the opportunity just to open us with a brief word of prayer, and anyone who would like to join in with us is welcome to. Father, thank you so much for this beautiful summer day, and thank you for the opportunity that we have to come together and talk about important things that are happening around our state with children and families. And we just pray and ask for guidance and direction. We pray that our hearts would be open for the vulnerable, and that our hearts would be for the vulnerable. Help us to see what others can't see, and help us to move forward in unity in our state, just for the betterment of families and children who are in need. Thank you for this time that we have to be together, and we just invite you into it and say that this time is yours, and just lead and direct us. And we pray this in the precious name of Jesus. Amen. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm going to call attendance for the meeting by region, and I would love for you to, as you state your name, tell us one thing that you are thankful for today. We'll begin with Region 1. Please state your full name for the record.
Hey, good morning, Pam Clayton with the Georgia Healthcare Association. Appreciate being with you all today. A bit personal, but my husband has a recent diagnosis, and thus far his treatment plan is moving along as smoothly as possible. So I'm grateful for that. Thank you for that opening prayer.
Great to see you, Pam. Region 2.
Good morning. I'm Fran Chastain. I am grateful for all my grandchildren.
Thank you, Fran. Good to see you. Region 3.
Hey, Randall Hambrick. Good to see y'all this morning. And I think I'm grateful that my girls are 21 and 22 are just in really healthy places in their journeys.
That's awesome. Thank you, Randall. Good to see you.
Yeah, you
Region
too.
4.
In 600 feet, your destination will be on.
I'm sorry, having problems with my phone, but this is Belinda Davis, and I am just thankful for life. Had a birthday yesterday, turned 59, and I'm just thankful that I saw another round around the sun.
Happy birthday. Glad to see you. Region 5.
Good morning. This is Anna Bearden from Region 5. I am grateful for just these mild days of summer currently that we're having. It's been really lovely.
That's awesome. Yes, I agree with you on that. Great to see you, Anna. Region 9.
Region 9, 10, 11, and 12 are not here at the moment.
Okay. Region 14.
Good morning, everyone. Shandina Morris. I am very grateful and thankful for having another beautiful day with my family. And prayerfully, my mother will make it to 89 on June 30th. And my two young children, Joe and Harmony. Joe is 15, Harmony is 10, and this is day 2 of summer break. So I am thankful for family and summertime fun.
That's awesome. Thank you, Judge Morris.
You're welcome.
Good to see you.
You too.
At large, Janice. At large, I'm Jennifer Shimpo. I'm the chairman of the board for this year. Great to see all of you guys. Thanks for sharing what you're grateful for today. I would say that I'm grateful for 9 years of celebrating adoption in our family. We just celebrated that yesterday, and we call it Shinpo Day. And this year we did something kind of different. Each kid got to pick their favorite dessert and then made that during the day, and then invited a bunch of friends over last night to eat desserts with us and share in our excitement to celebrate the completion of our family. At large member, Jeff.
I'm sorry, I'm having technical issues, so you guys get me on my phone. Hi, everybody. It's Jeff Maurer from Rome. And Jennifer, I'm sorry. I was trying to get on here, and so I've missed whatever your instructions are. But you said, I heard you just say that you wanted us to say something that we were grateful for. And I will say I'm grateful for just passing the 10-year mark at Restoration Rome. So anyway.
That's awesome. Congratulations. Did you
Thank
guys throw a big party?
We didn't actually, the day that Together Georgia was at the facility, sitting there talking to Lamarva, we realized it was May 1st, which was our 10-year anniversary. So that tells you how in the weeds Mary Margaret and I are. We didn't even recognize our 10-year anniversary, but anyway, but all good. We are making the most of it, and we will have a celebration when we get back from the blueberry farm.
Awesome. Great to hear that. Thanks for being here. At
Yep.
large member, Judge Costley.
Thank you, ma'am. I am glad to be here as well. Uh, Things I'm grateful for. At my age, I'm grateful for a lot of small things. I went to my physical yesterday, and Dr. Patton said for an 82-year-old fat guy, I was doing pretty good. But today, I'm just thankful that I figured out how to get on this system. Now, Emily, you know that I have problems with these things. I logged in without any problem today. The sun has been shining outside. It must be shining inside. Emily is such a delight to deal with, and she can't understand how much I appreciate with giving my drawbacks. Thank you, Jennifer.
Good to see you, Judge Costley. At large member Leslie. I think she was maybe going to join us in just a little bit. Emily or Emma, at this time, do we have a quorum?
We do have a quorum at this time.
Great. Let's move to approve our agenda for today. Please state your name when making or seconding a motion so it can be included in the minutes. And today's meeting and agenda has been distributed to you. Are there any corrections? Is there a motion?
I can do a motion, Randall Hambrick, Region 3, that we accept the minutes or the agenda.
Thank you. Is
I'll
there a second?
Second, Jeff Maurer.
Great. It is moved and properly seconded that the meeting agenda for today is approved. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Okay, no one opposed, so the motion is moved. The March 11th, 2025 meeting minutes have been distributed to you. Are there any corrections? Oops. Sorry, I got off track here. I think, Emma, is that the same thing that we just did?
No, separate.
No, different. Okay, sorry, I got confused there for a minute. Is there a motion to move forward with the March 11th, 2025 meeting minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. Pam, could you state your name, first and last name, please?
Pam Clayton, so moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
It is moved and properly seconded that the Division of Family and Children's Services Advisory Board minutes for March 11th, 2025 meeting be approved. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? The motion is moved. Okay, we're going to move on to agency reports. We, because we are virtual today and some of our office staff are needing to get to some things later this afternoon, we're going to move our committee time to the end of this meeting. And so we're going to move to agency reports right now. And just a reminder that these reports focus on projects and initiatives of each of these offices to help us better know what committees can discuss. And we will do that at the very end of the meeting when we adjourn today. I would like to invite John Hallman now to join us and give us an update from the Office of Family Independence.
Thank you, Chairman Shimpo. I thank y'all for adjusting the schedule. I'm the reason we had to move things around. There is a 2Gen Academy graduation happening as we speak, and two of their projects are about Gateway. And some of my folks are graduates as well. So after this, I'm going to head over there to hopefully catch their presentations and celebrate that achievement for our staff. And I think, Emily, if you're driving, if you wouldn't mind progressing through the slides. I have a lot on the slides today. I try to make them a resource for y'all to read after the meetings or before the meetings. I'm not going to read everything that's on them today. I would like for this, as usual, to be a conversation. So feel free to jump in if you have any questions as I'm going through them. But I may kind of skip over some material, because there's a lot on the slides, but I try to make them like that so y'all can read it before or after, or have it as a resource for yourselves. But a request was made for me to present on the career path for our OFI caseworkers or all of OFI staff. And so I'm going to go through that and then talk about its effect on retention. We do have a couple other efforts happening that I believe affect retention, and so I'm going to hit on those as well, just so you can see the whole scope of our efforts there. So on the next slide, you'll see an overview of the career path. Really what we wanted to do here was address pay concerns and build achievable milestones over a 5-year period. We really see a big increase in the productivity of our workers if they stick around for, past that 2 and 3 year mark. That's when we really see folks really hit their stride. And that's because they've become cross-trained, which makes more work available to them, and also more proficient in the systems and programs that we administer. And so on the next slide, you'll see, this is where I'm saying it's kind of a wall of text that I won't read for y'all, but I'll try to explain our old system and then our new system as simple as I can, and then y'all can ask questions if I need to clarify anything. But the way that and one other clarifying thing that may be a little bit confusing, we used to call our caseworkers economic support specialists. ESS was the abbreviation that we used for that. We now call them eligibility specialists. That change was made to align their title more closely with the work that they do. And economic support specialist is actually a job title that's used in other agencies outside of the Department of Human Services. So making a job or position that's specific to our agency has some advantages too from an HR perspective. So anyways, the before the recent changes to their career path, eligibility specialists 1, 2, and 3, those ranks still existed, but to move from a 1 to a 2, you had to learn another program. So, that would be, say you started and you were trained in Medicaid eligibility, you come in as an ESS 1, and then when you learned it, you were trained in SNAP, you became an ESS 2. And there was a 10% salary increase that was associated with that promotion. To move to an ESS 3, you would need to learn a third program. And that usually would be our TANF program or age, blind, and disabled ABD Medicaid. Over the years, though, we realized that, there was a lot of benefit to cross-training folks very soon in their career. So, right now we actually try to cross-train everyone to learn 2 programs within a year of when they start. That's our goal. And so, the impact of that had is people were really getting that first promotion very quickly, which is fine, happy to promote people, but, to move from an ESS 2 to ESS 3, you have to learn TANF or ABD Medicaid. And those are specialized programs in smaller populations than our whole population. So we don't always need more folks to be trained in those 2 programs. So what ended up happening is folks would come on and immediately get a promotion when they learned the second program, or very quickly get a promotion, and then getting a second promotion would take a really long time. So progressing through that career path, wasn't really like achievable milestones over a period of time. So what we did is we retained the idea when you learn a new program, you still get a salary increase. So picking up a new program still results in a 5% salary increase, but to get the 10% raise that's associated with moving from a 1 to a 2 to a 3, now it's based upon successful performance in the position. So you come on as an ESS 1, And then if you learn a second program, you could get a 5% raise. If you're successful in the ESS1 role for 2 years, you can then get a 10% raise and become an ESS2. Then if you're an ESS2 successfully for another 3 years, so 5 years total, you can move into the ESS3 position. And so, there used to be, you could move from 1 to 2 to 3, and that would be a 20% increase. Now it's 1, 2, and 3, plus picking up those extra programs, you can get a total of a 30% increase while staying within that eligibility specialist series. So that was a change that was made in December of 2023. And that's been going pretty well. Builds out milestones that, there's the 2-year mark and then the 5-year mark. It also gives them, the opportunity to work towards additional programs that hopefully is mixed in between those timelines to give them a couple opportunities to advance in the career path and receive a salary increase. On the next slide, you'll see the more detailed breakdown of kind of those levels. And, it shows a special entry salary. Special entry salary is just the lowest amount you can get paid. If you've been with the agency for more years, obviously your pay could be above those levels. And so it's going to be that special entry salary or a 10% increase, whichever is higher. So that was done in December of 2023. On the next slide, the next thing that we did was that was for the Economic Support Specialist series. Another thing that we realized was that the pay change between a level 3 caseworker and a supervisor didn't match the responsibility change that happened. So it's a lot of responsibility to supervise people. There are a lot of different challenges that come with that position, and we ask a lot of our supervisors. And back, in this time period, the jump between an ESS3 and a supervisor was only $2,000. So from $41,000 to $43,000. And so we took a look at that and increased it from a 1 pay grade increase to a two level jump between those positions. So along with the other salary adjustments that I'll talk about later that have happened over the last couple of years, now the jump between ESS3 and supervisor, instead of being 41 to 43, is 45, a little over 45 to a little over 57. So it's about an $11,000, $12,000 increase now, which is more aligned with the it's more aligned with the market that's out there for that role, and it's also better represents the increase in responsibilities between those two positions. Something I did at the same time was increase the. Sorry, to have a question. I thought I heard someone. Okay, well, if you do have a question, please speak up. Also adjusted the salaries of the leadership above supervisor at the same time we made this change to prevent salary compression. So you'll see, above supervisor, there is an administrator. Above that's a deputy district manager, then district manager, deputy field ops is above that as well. On the next slide, you'll see, again, the document we kind of send out to our folks that has a little bit more information about what those what's required for each of those positions, and it includes the administrator and then our field program specialists as well, which are called corrective action specialists in the field. Next slide. One thing that we did just recently in April is also extended the career path to include our state office employees. And so there were too many different kinds of jobs that happen in the state office to list them all out here, but it was to continue to build on the progression you see from the field into state office. A lot of the work that we do requires knowledge of casework, so we want to build a path for folks with that knowledge to continue to progress throughout their career. One thing we also try to do was offer intersection points within the career path so that, supervision is not for everyone. I will say some people have a different skill set, and so we try to create opportunities for folks to move either up or laterally into a different position that maybe better fits their skill set. If you're if you're a very detail-oriented person, maybe that means moving into our quality team. If you're very good at Excel, maybe you're interested in our reporting team. We have a training team too, and we have testers that help with system enhancements. So we try to align those things to make them, where folks could move into different positions and continue to progress. Also, hopefully, there are a couple of positions where folks can move out of the field and then back into the field, bringing a different perspective to the work.
Do you know where the entrance is that you go through security for hard? Okay, good. Very good. Thank you so much.
I don't think that is a question. So I will keep going. On the next slide, I have a graph that kind of shows the impact of the work that we've been doing towards retention. In the pre-pandemic time period, I'll just explain the colors here. So the blue colored column is annual totals, and it's based off state fiscal year. And the orange one is
right there
where we are as of April in the year. And I think I added the April data because we only have data for state fiscal year 25 through April. So to give you the state fiscal year 25 information, I added that as well. So you can see.
I'm so sorry. Hold on one second, John. Janice, would you mind muting your... Great. Thank you so much.
I am so sorry.
It's okay. No worries. Please continue, Mr. Hallman.
Thank you. So you'll see in the pre-public health emergency time period, we had turnover rates in the mid to high teens, was something that we saw during that time period. And then, what's been labeled kind of the great resignation time period in 2021 and 2022, you see those numbers jump significantly. And so a lot of the retention efforts, that spurred a lot of our retention efforts. A lot of folks received pay increases in other parts of the world. And so to remain competitive, we wanted to make some changes there. And you'll see, you can see the trend line kind of starting to decline. I'm very happy about the progress that we've made and the implementations we've been able to do. Again, I don't have a full year's worth of data for state fiscal year 25, but if you look at the orange bars here, you can see that progressive downward trend in turnover. So very excited to see that come back to our pre-pandemic levels. I would like to see it much lower than it was before those times. And I do think we're on track. Have a lot of other initiatives I'll highlight as well after this that shows kind of that downward trend that we've been seeing and it continuing. If you look at, fiscal year 22, we were at a peak of 26% of turnover, and then we dropped down to the 22 range for 23 and 24 and 25. We're at 15. That's an annual number, but at 15% in April. And that's 4% lower than the last 2 years at the same time. So 4% lower than April in 24 or 23 and 24, and 8% lower than 22. So I do think that we're seeing a lot of progress there, and happy to show this information.
Deputy,
and I'll pause. That was a lot. Does anyone have any?
Yeah, if I may, Pam Clayton, congratulations on this progress. I know turnover it's really a challenge to get your arms around. So great work. I'm just curious about the caseworker surge that was approved and how that augmented staff. What is the plan around that and the timeline?
Just to clarify, we were given an appropriation by the legislature to increase our staffing levels by 500 in advance of the Medicaid redetermination process. Is that what you're talking about? There's also an effort that we refer to as surge support that's contract workers helping us too.
So both the surge support, I think, was a little slower coming online. I may be wrong about that, but yeah, the status of just the surge.
Sure. That's a great segue into my next slide, which shows kind of our total caseworker numbers. And you can see we were kind of down in a low point in 2022, as you could see from the previous slide, but we have been able to rebuild a lot over the last couple of years in total number of caseworkers, up to this new level of about 2,200 workers, and been able to remain pretty consistent with bringing new folks in with, kind of the natural attrition that happens with a workforce of this size. So that's been going really well. To be honest, I would like the numbers to be higher, but this is where we are. We're kind of maxing out our budget almost here with very few very few funded vacancies left. So that's why you see it kind of level out around the 2,200 level here. So recruiting and retaining folks, at least from a total caseworkers perspective, has been going very well. I would say we were able to bring a lot of people on in the 2023 time period, as you can see, and we've been able to maintain that over the last year and a half as well. The Deloitte is the vendor for Gateway, and we entered into a contract with them at the beginning of 2024 to bring on 200 additional contract workers to assist us with the Medicaid casework. And that has been very productive as well. They, can only work Medicaid-only cases because of the restrictions around the SNAP program. That has to be done by state employees, but they have been very productive. That effort was initially to help drive down kind of the application backlog that we saw following the Medicaid redetermination process, and I would say that's been very successful. We've been able to reduce that by 2/3 with their help. Obviously all these new caseworkers have helped as well towards that effort, but it's all been kind of all these things together have been helpful, I think. So that was originally to run from calendar year 24, beginning of calendar year 24 to the end. It was extended again at the beginning of calendar year 25 to run through the end of this month. And so, we are discussing whether or not renewal of that project is needed right now. So it's currently scheduled to end at the end of June, the end of the state fiscal year.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for the question. I have one more graph I'd like to show on the next slide. This one, I debated, showing this data is very challenging from a graph perspective, but this is the different levels of caseworker, 1, 2, and 3 you'll see here. And I wanted to show the impact of the career path specifically. There were a lot of people I mentioned who kind of got stuck in that ESS2 position because there weren't promotional opportunities for them. So this red dotted line is when we implemented the career path, and there were a significant number of people who were in that ESS2 position that now qualified to become an ESS3. So a big number of caseworkers, our veteran caseworkers that have been around for 5+ years, were able to get a promotion immediately with the implementation of that career path, which is great. It kind of makes the ESS2 line look like it's going down, but that's actually a good thing. That means people are moving up through the career path as they should. And you see that ESS1 number continue to climb, and that's our new hires. And so, the big wave of new hires we saw coming in 2023 are just now hitting that 2-year mark. So you'll start to see this ESS2 line go up as well. I'm going to keep going. If anyone has any questions, please jump in. I don't want to use up too much of your time today, though. There are a couple other things that I think are worth mentioning that have an impact on retention. I'd like to think it was, it's not just the career path. There's a lot of other things going on. Over the past 3 years, the governor's office and legislature, state leadership has been very supportive of its employees. In 2022, all state employees received a $5,000 raise. In 2023, all state employees received a $2,000 raise. And then in 2024, everyone received a 4% raise. And for our lowest employees, that was around the lowest paid employees, entry-level caseworker, it was around, I think, $1,300 raise for them and more as they moved up the career path. And then in April 1st of this year, the legislature approved a very targeted pay raise just for OFI caseworkers and supervisors that was $3,000. So if you go back after the meeting and you're looking at the salaries that were listed on the document that I gave you, and you see there's a big jump between our clerical staff and our ESS1s, and then maybe a little bit of compression between our supervisors and our administrators, that's because This $3,000 raise was just implemented. And so it only affected the people that the legislator specifically targeted. So over the next couple of years, I'll be working to kind of even that out a little bit as well. And I'll continue through our other efforts aimed towards retention. One big thing that we did, our nesting program. If you go ahead to the next slide, I have some detailed explanation of what the nesting program is, but basically it's just to provide support for folks as they get onboarded. That was something we do exit interviews with people and, get feedback from our employees all the time. But one thing that they signaled was, in a virtual world, which is, most of our folks are teleworking right now, additional support being available to them is important to make them feel welcomed and get them kicked off or oriented to the agency. So we built a whole team that just supports people as they begin. Supervisors have, they can have, a couple, 7, 8 employees. So they may not have the time to dedicate to a new employee. So this is a specific team that's just there to help them out. And they help them right when they onboard, and they support them through and after training as well to make sure they know what they're doing, and they have additional people to reach out to on top of their management structure. On the next slide, I talk about some of the benefits. We've seen higher retention rates because of this. We've seen increased test scores for new hires, and people get more productive the longer they stick around. So we really think this is helping us with our increase our capacity. On the next slide, another initiative, a big thing that we're trying to do is build up the skill set of our supervisors. Supervision is very important, for folks, and really the transfer of knowledge, we promote from within. So all the supervisors are successful caseworkers, and one thing that I think is very important is for them to transfer their knowledge to the next generation of caseworkers. And so we're doing an initiative called the Next Level Coaching Initiatives for our supervisors and administrators, which gives them tools on how to coach their employees, how to transfer that knowledge of how they were able to be successful to the folks that they are managing. And so that's been going really well. We did this as kind of a special training that happened on top of everything else, and it will be built into the long-term just new supervisor training moving forward. On the next slide too, as well, we're hosting supervisor summits again. A lot of the support or kind of extra things that we did to help people, we couldn't do those when we were in the beginning of the public health emergency, and then when we were working very hard to dig out of a backlog situation around that and not having enough folks to do the work that we had. And so now that we're catching up with the work, we have more time to offer some of these supports and build up the skills of our supervisors. So last year we did supervisor summits that were big meetings where all the supervisors got to get together and receive training on how to, add some tools to their toolbox. And this year we're doing the same thing, but smaller meetings with a bunch around the state so they can have local, meet their local leadership and have some time with each other to talk and build those bonds between the teams in a smaller setting. But we go over kind of HR policy, how to have difficult conversations, teach them about the tools they have to manage their workers, and just build up the soft and hard skills it takes to be a supervisor. And I believe that really has a very big impact on our ability to retain caseworkers and kind of build them up through their career. So I've probably already gone over my time. So this is my last slide. I will stop here and take any questions that anyone has.
Deputy Homa, Pam Clayton again, just very quickly. How are you all doing relative to the plans that you've been working with CMS around standards of promptness with the increasing stability and staffing and the supervisor support, which I will credit was referenced in a regional meeting I participated in recently. They were preparing to participate in that, and I know Region 1 indicated that they were making some good progress. Is that consistent with what you're seeing across the state?
It is. We have seen, a good increase in standard of promptness, which for everyone else is our timeliness metric set by our federal regulators. We have been working with CMS and FNS on some plans around managing that. In the month of April, we exceeded the target of our plan with FNS by I think 10%. So way ahead of schedule there. And Medicaid, we're doing well. I think that the last month that I have data for, let me see if I can pull it up real quickly. I believe that the work that we completed in the Medicaid program, almost 70% of the work that we did was completed within SOP. And in SNAP, almost 83% of the work we completed was within SOP. So Medicaid's challenging, as you know personally, Pam, that age blind and disabled Medicaid workload requires a special skill set that takes years to develop that knowledge and skill. And so we do see some lag in the progression of that body of work, but most of the MAGI Medicaid is back to moving pretty timely through the system. And we're working on ways to build up our capacity in the ABD space as well. I think we have a good plan coming into this summer of how to train more folks to work on what we call our Q-Track classes of assistance, which is a big portion of our ABD workload, and pulling that off of our specifically ABD workload trained folks, we can expand their capacity to target some of the more difficult classes of assistance around nursing home, hospice, waiver programs, so they can focus on that and get Q-Track work, the over to our more of our caseworkers to spread that workload out. We did have to do some plans, and maybe we can shoot one over to you, Pam, that recently for the legislature and the OPB. So if Emma, maybe you can help me send over the plan we just put together for them to the folks on this call too, so they can see that as well. I think that'd be helpful.
Very helpful. Very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anyone else have any questions for Deputy Hallman? Thank you so much for being here and sharing with us today. And his information is on the screen if you'd like to send him an email with any questions.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Next, we will hear from the child welfare update by Deputy Lon Roberts. Welcome, Mr. Roberts.
Hey, good morning. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, John. Always a pleasure to work with my good friend John, colleague John Hallman. It's always a pleasure and great presenter. So it's always hard to go before him or to follow him, but I'll do my best. Apologize, I'm a little bit under the weather today, so if I start hacking on you, I apologize in advance. I'm excited to share some observations, events, and initiatives currently taking place with child welfare with you all today. I want to start today's presentation by reviewing a few data figures and topics that were specifically requested by the board. So first, we'll talk about child welfare careers. I'd like to give some background information on our child welfare careers. Our child welfare specialists are commonly known as case managers. There are currently 3 levels associated with a social service specialist, which is our case managers. All new employees start as a social service specialist 1 with a starting salary of $47,000. After an employee has completed 2 continuous years of employment with successful performance, they're eligible to become a social service specialist 2. After 3 additional years of continuous employment and successful performance, they're eligible to become a social service specialist 3. Our social service supervisors are commonly referred to as DFCS supervisors. The qualifications for a supervisor are 3 years of case management experience or 1 year experience in a social service specialist 3 position. This career path model helps support our retention efforts by providing clear targets and opportunities for advancement. As of April 2025, our social service specialist turnover rate is 11.9%, lower than April 2024, and our social service specialist supervisor turnover is 1.1%. I want to share a few additional employment data points with you. As of March 30th, 2025, there are 890 social service specialist 1 employees with less than 1 year experience on average. There were 431 social service specialist 2 employees with an average of 2.8 years of service. There are 319 social service specialist 3 employees with an average of 11.49 years of experience. And there were 497 social service specialist supervisor employees with an average of 8.37 years of service. Now I want to talk about case manager supports. I want to highlight the mental and emotional support we have in place for our case managers. It can be a very, very difficult position at times. And so I want to highlight some of the supports that are in place for our case managers. The State of Georgia's Employees Assistance Program, EAP, provides face-to-face counseling for any personal, family, or work experiences. Through EAP, our employees have access to mental health professionals 24/7, among other wellness resources. Many of our case managers experience stressful encounters in this line of work. It's important to the agency that we assure our staff have access to mental health professionals and receive any needed support from the county or regional leadership. Of note, our own Allie Christensen recently provided support to Camden County after a challenging situation, demonstrating that we're all in this work together. I'd now like to move to technology modernization projects. We're continuing to prioritize technology modernization efforts with child welfare. Our Shines modularization project, targeted to go live at the end of this year, is our initiative to enhance Georgia Shines, the existing statewide system of record for all child welfare information. We are using industry best practices and technologies to address the pain points experienced by our employees as we improve the functionality and technology of this system. We're also in the process of digitizing our foster parent onboarding process through the creation of the Caregiver Connection. This onboarding system will be both for public and private agencies. DFCS foster parent onboarding is set to go live at the end of the year, and CPA foster parent onboarding is set to go live at the beginning of 2026. The Caregiver Connection will also digitize the foster parent reevaluation process. Foster parents must be reevaluated every 2 years, and we're excited to be able to digitize this process. This added enhancement will go live in early 2026. We're continuing to make system updates to Georgia Communicare, our set of interconnected web portals that link child welfare case managers, court-appointed special advocate staff, CASAs, and volunteers, foster parents, and parents. These portals are integrated with Georgia Shines to ensure efficient and secure data management and communication. We launched this system and the accompanying mobile application in 2024. We're eager to see system usage increase as we introduce new enhancements to this technology. Yeah, thank you, Leslie. Yeah, we'll certainly keep you up in the loop about that. We'll certainly continue to share about the new process as it rolls out. Our next Georgia Communicare system enhancement will include foster parent reimbursement technology. This technology is needed by our caregivers, and I'm excited to share more about this technology's development in the coming months. It's our goal to have this enhancement live in Georgia Communicare by 2026. It's a lot of hard work on the technology modernization side. Now I want to focus on the National Foster Care Month. Each year during the month of May, our division joins the nation in recognizing National Foster Care Awareness Month, a time to celebrate our current foster caregivers and their dedication to providing stable, loving homes for children and youth in foster care. We also use this time to raise awareness about the urgent need for additional foster caregivers across the state. Last week, DHS and DFCS leadership, representatives from our Caregiver Recruitment Retention Unit, CREW, and members of our DHS and DFCS boards joined Governor Brian P. Kemp and First Lady Marty Kemp at the state capitol for a photo opportunity with this year's Foster Care Awareness Month proclamation. 2025 Foster Caregivers of the Year. Each year during the Foster Care Awareness Month, our division selects 14 caregivers, one from each DFCS region, to be recognized as the Foster Caregivers of the Year. To celebrate our 2025 Foster Caregivers of the Year, DFCS Caregiver Recruitment Retention Unit hosted a virtual Foster Caregiver of the Year celebration on May 21. You can watch the recording of this presentation on our YouTube channel. I encourage you to also read the latest spotlight on our DHS website that highlights our foster parent caregivers of the year and their biographies. Atlanta Braves event. On Sunday, May 25th, our division partnered with the Atlanta Braves organization to celebrate Georgia's caregivers and families. It was a great day, except for the final score, but it was a great time for all. With this partnership, over 25 caregivers and their families were able to attend Sunday's Braves game, totaling over 250 people. During the event, our caregivers, families, and youth in care had the opportunity to participate in various pregame events, including a parade around the field, a player QA, opening ceremony activities, and game announcements. Throughout the game, we're able to encourage the recruitment of additional caregivers through various advertisement opportunities. The event has become a great opportunity for us to promote caregiver recruitment and retention statewide. Celebration of Excellence. Each year, DFCS hosts Celebration of Excellence, an event honoring the secondary and post-secondary achievements of our youth and young adults in foster care. This year's Celebration of Excellence will be held on Thursday, July 10th. I encourage you all to save this date. You will be receiving a formal invitation and information on the registration soon, but I wanted to personally invite you each to join us. Thank you for your time, and I'm now open for any questions.
Hey, this is Allie Christensen. I just had a quick question regarding the support for staff and teams across the state. We did provide support in Camden County, but we utilized a CISM, a critical incident stress management team, from local chaplains that also serve the fire department and police department. And it was really a great use of resources and involving the community as well in the work that we're doing. So I wondered if that might be a model that you all might allow me to explore further across the state, or is that already happening in other parts of the state using those CISM teams?
I'd like to learn more about it, Allie. I think there's a lot of potential there. I know now we use the EAP program and we use a lot of peer support. That's not necessarily across the state. We have teams of peer support. And I think I'd like to learn more about it. I think what you're describing sounds very interesting and maybe a lot of potential there.
Yes, sir. It's a model that comes out of the federal government, but there's folks already trained. They're already ready to go. So really, it's just connecting them with the directors in our counties, because I think the difference is just that group experience and helping with the secondary trauma versus leaving it on the individual staff to seek care. Which takes time and they're so busy. So just already having that planned and in place when there is a critical incident. Yeah. So should I just email you directly?
Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. All right. We'll do that. I also just had a quick question regarding a technology update with Family Match. Have we heard anything about that recently? Just curious.
Not off the top of my head, but I wrote that down. I'll follow up on that for you, Allie.
Okay, sweet. Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
you bringing it up. So I think we had a few comments here. Let me go into the chat. Families are in caregiver of much for all foster families. DFCS licensed. That's a great question, Les. Let me confirm that. I'll make a note here. All right. Well, thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time and your dedication to working with us and supporting us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Roberts. I appreciate your time today.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. Okay, we were going to move on to board business for today. I would like to talk about our regional reports. If we could get those submitted to Emma and Emily 1 week prior to our meetings so that the executive committee can review those and ask questions or bring attention to anything that might be significant that would apply to the rest of the state. That would be really helpful. I think our reports have been kind of coming in the day of our meetings, and it would be more helpful to have those a week prior. So we've moved those to save time and concentrate more on our committee work. We've moved those reports to only being written reports instead of verbal reports. So if we could get your help to make that successful and not have to return to oral reports, that would be great. The other thing that I was going to mention is just to follow back up with what the deputy was just talking about, Deputy Robert, excuse me, the celebration of excellence coming up in July, on July 10th. We would really love and stress for all of you to put that on your calendar and make it a priority. It's such a special time for our graduates, and it's special for them to have people surrounding them during that time to cheer them on and just to celebrate with them. So please put that on your calendar. It's such a nice lunch that they prepare for them, and a special time with speakers. And I think the DHS board is also invited to this event. So please, if you can make the trip, please do so and prioritize these students and their success. The last thing for board business is I wanted to mention our coming up, our dates next. Our next meeting will be September 22nd of this year. And then our Q4 meeting will be November 18th. So if you could go ahead and put those on your calendar as well and make sure to prioritize those. For the September 22nd meeting, I would like to invite everyone to come and be in person. It is much more successful for us to meet in person, to have great conversations and build community among our board members. So I would highly just push and stress and beg and plead for you to make time to come to in person. And I would love to make available lunch for anyone who can come. That will be covered by my husband and I. We would love to do that and include any department staff as well that would like to join us for lunch after the board and committees meet on September 22nd. Does anyone else have anything they would like to bring forward for board business today?
I have a question real quick, Jen. So I was one of the delays. I typically get my reports in on time, but I did not. I forgot about that part and I sent it over this morning. But is there a reason we're not hearing those? Because they're really actually very helpful to hear what's going on in different regions. It's like my favorite part of the meeting, to be honest. And so is there a reason we don't get to hear from regions on what's going on?
We just had kind of streamlined it instead of taking the time to hear each person's report because it was just so scattered, it seemed like. But we can revisit that and we could certainly send that out, all those written reports out to each.
Yeah, that'd be I mean, we maybe don't have to say them, but it's very helpful because then we're in our regions and can have conversations. So if we can't discuss them or share during the meeting, it would be helpful to at least see what's going on in other regions, in my opinion.
Yes, no, that would be great. That's a great point too. And that would be important to all of us if we could get those reports in a week prior so that we can review them and then send them out. And we could actually make, that a point of discussion, Randall, like we could have discussion over regional reports if it's needed.
Okay, that'd be great.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, great point. I mean, maybe if possible, it'd just be if we can, meet the deadline for report submission, and maybe it'd be a part of the meeting packet, and then folks would be able to ask questions if they had questions to come out of their review of the reports, if that's possible.
Yes, that sounds great. We can work on that. Thank you, ladies. Okay, now we'll move on to committee reports. Just one more time, anybody else have anything they'd like to bring forward for board business? Okay, committee reports. We have our Child Welfare and Regional Trends Committee, our OFI Committee, and then the Community Relations and Hiring Committee. So we'll start with Child Welfare and Regional Trends today, and your chairman of your subcommittee has the board right now.
Leslie or Jeff may be the best to present for this committee.
Okay, great. Leslie or Jeff, would you guys like to jump in and kind of tell us what your committee's been working on?
I'm jumping in, but Allie's here, and I feel like I'm going over Allie.
No, sorry, Leslie. I was trying to come off mute. You're fine because I wasn't at the last meeting. So I know you guys met without me.
All right, Jeff, you want to tag team with me?
Sure.
Okay.
You want first?
So one, I mean, I'll do a headline or two, and then you jump in and do all the texture and meaningfulness. How about that? So we came out of the last committee meeting that we did live and had a desire to learn from Lamarva Ivory, who is retiring sometime in the future. We're unclear still on her retirement, but she has been managing all of the regional boards and has been the point person that is extracting all of the information from the regional boards and trying to compile it in a meaningful way. So we followed up and had that meeting with Lamarva, learned a lot from her about how things have been operating, and then also have determined that what we would like to do is refine that process, both in terms of content compatibility that flows from the bottom of the system to the top, and also the timing of that flow so that it can be interpreted better. So let me give you an example. If we come up with a framework and everyone's working within the same framework of what we want to know more about, we'll be able to see issues that exist in different geographies that are top priority in that geography. And in that way, then be able to put more energy and effort into helping those areas come up with strong strategies for those problems. As a corollary, we also might see other areas that have already tackled that problem and be able to point them to each other for a learning cycle to take place between both. And then lastly, we will know sort of what the hot topics are and whether or not they're bubbling up more from a scale of community standpoint, where maybe a community style has a less well-developed ecosystem and could use more community partner type engagement that we know exists in other areas. And in that case, we could connect them with organizations that are doing great work that maybe would be able to both either help them or come into their community. So that was a mouthful, but I think that was the gist of what we're working toward. Jeff, what you got?
I think that along with that, it's the structure of the communication channels, which should be happening through the different board structures, local boards to regional boards to the state boards. And Lamarva, we had a lot of questions about about those structures and or those boards and how they work together and how communication happened. And I think we found that a lot of again, the structure of the board, whether that's bylaws or kind of the appointment of board members and who those board members need to be. A lot of that stuff is actually in place, but may not be actually being utilized. And so the other thing that I guess is part of that is just kind of taking a look at how the boards are formed. Do the boards understand their role? What are they? Do they feel like that they're being able to communicate these needs from the local level up to the state level? Do they have again right board representation so that they're able to connect with the appropriate stakeholders or providers, things like that. So just kind of looking at that entire board structure was another component of this, and I think we're going to continue to dig deeper into that. We talked about taking perhaps 2 different regions within the state and even operating a pilot in those where we would just attend local boards, county board meetings, and as well as regional, which I'm sure most of us are doing anyway, and just asking questions. I for one have already done that with Lloyd, and he spoke with our new county director up here, and so kind of had that unofficial kind of conversation going. So we want to make sure that we've identified the key needs across the state, and then make sure that the channels that those should be communicated through are functioning and functioning well, county by county and region by region. So that's
one other thing that came to mind as you were talking, Jeff, is that in the last meeting, Emma and Emily made us aware of an opportunity that was happening up in Rome and invited board members to come to it. I did attend, as did Randall. But the question of how do we as a state advisory board know as we're moving around the state in our lives, or when we want to create some intentional time to move ourselves someplace, when are those things happening and where are they happening? Because we have an open invitation to be in those places. And so Emily has, I believe, come up with a really slick solution to all of that. It's an app called Notion, where they could populate all of the upcoming board meetings of any style or other community events like the celebration that's coming up, so that we as board members would have a ready access at any given point in time to look in and see what's coming up that doesn't have to do with these large call meetings, but instead has to do with our just general engagement in the child well-being space, to keep ourselves more in touch and informed. So anyway, Emily, do you want to say anything about where we're at with regard to experimenting with this solution?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I was planning to share that calendar with our committee this afternoon, in our committee meeting. I know that Leslie was kind of our pilot person about looking through it and making sure that the function was there for our board members, but we are gearing up to share that with the whole board. Currently, it has all of our county and regional board meetings in it already.
So just another thing to point out about Notion is, if we start with it just as a calendar awareness tool that we can all self-help ourselves through, it has other functionality and I use it. I'm able to have more experience with it because it's used by some other boards that I sit on. And so I guess over time we can figure out if it has an even broader context of usefulness to us as a board, and or possibly a link to other boards around the state might be relevant. So anyway, enough said on that.
Great. Thank you guys for your hard work on that. I love the idea of us all being connected through Notion together because it helps continue the conversation in between our official board meetings, and it keeps us all connected throughout the state to build better community when things arise and we need help from one another or need fresh ideas or whatever we need in order to be successful. So I'm excited about that. Thank you, Leslie and Jeff. Next, we'll move to OFI. And I'm not sure who the chairman of this subcommittee is, but I would love for someone to present on what you guys have been working on.
So Fran is our subcommittee chair. However, she was unable to make our last meeting. So Anna or Belinda may be the best ones to discuss what was going on at the last one.
I can take a quick pass. I'm sorry. There is a group of volunteers here at the office that are leaving, that are exuberant currently. So I apologize for any background there. A little bit, and if Belinda wants to hop in, Laura joined us for this meeting. We covered quite a bit of updates that Mr. Hallman also shared previously, including, well, I guess in addition to that, we heard a bit of some pilots that are happening, a second gen training with Carl Vinson, that I think we have a few more questions about learning a little bit more about what that is looking like. Library kiosks. We talked about library kiosks last year, but also that moved into DFCS lobbies this year. So at the time of our meeting, which was in May, that was 90% complete, which so I think we're hopeful for an update on what that looks like. We talked a little bit about field staff fully transitioned to the new phone system. The platform 28, I believe, is the name of that. So 100% transitioned. I think we are curious for what that looks like as far as just how efficiently that is going, what that looks like as far as how many clicks it takes a person to get to kind of their needs met when they're calling into resources or information or whatever that looks like for that new phone system. So that our last meeting was primarily updates. We had a few follow-up questions about some of those things, but I don't have anything more that OFI has really figured out. This is something that we are working towards as much as updates and gaining more information about what's going on.
Great. Thank you, Anna. And last but not least, community relations. Janice, are you still on the line? I see her there. Randall, were you able to attend the last meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
It was Travis, Janice, and myself.
Okay.
We really are just, our last meeting, we were trying to figure out how, as community engagement, could we be most effective? And that's been a little bit of an issue, is like, what do we want to do? Do we want to partner with events going on? Do we want to do other things? And I think this past meeting, we landed on starting with creating like a one-page document and also a PowerPoint presentation that we could all use for community events or community partner meetings, like whether it's Rotary clubs or churches or anything else that are at board and whomever else would like it. Just kind of who is DFCS, what do we do, things like that. And so I gathered a resource from my old director, who used to be in Paulding, who's now our regional director, Jason Ehrman, where he and I both did a presentation to a pastors and policemen board a few years back and just kind of took notes off of that. He forwarded it back to me, but we're trying to create something that we all could use as a board for community engagement that we could access very easily. So we're not all individually having to come up with how do we go see a Rotary Club and talk about maybe ways they can connect, how they can be community partners, and also what does DFCS actually do. So I think that is our first goal, is to create a one-pager our board and local boards could use, county boards, regional boards, and the state board, and then also a PowerPoint presentation of sorts. And so also, like, yeah, if you guys have ideas, we have not, yeah, thank you for that, Leslie. We can keep it, if Notion is available to use or upload a presentation or one pager, that'd be great. So if y'all have ideas, we would love to hear them. We haven't started the brainstorming process together. I think that's probably what we'll do today. But I do think it'll be really helpful. So it's like less pressure to have to create something every time you go meet with somebody. It's kind of ready-made for you.
Yes, I love that. And I love the comment that Leslie put in the chat of it can be Notion for ready access. Yeah, in that when we see technology all working together and our teams working together, it brings such joy to my heart.
I see you, Ali, on that too. And so any thoughts you guys have, text them to me. Feel free to text them if you want. And we'll start working on compiling stuff. So any ideas, just send them over.
That's great. Thank you so much, Randall.
Sure.
Okay, at this time, we are going to end an adjournment, but we, for the official board, however, if you hang tight on here, you will get redirected into your chat with your subcommittee. And again, I just want to say thank you so much for making time today. I know it's summer, it's hard with kids out of school and people on vacation. So we really appreciate your presence here. I love how we were able to connect and have lots of conversation today. That makes me very happy. And I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of our committees. Again, just let me again say the dates for the next meeting is going to be September the 22nd, and then quarter 4 meeting will be November the 18th. And then our goal and hope is that our subcommittees would be meeting once a month, at least once a month, in between our full board meetings. So thank you. September in Atlanta, yes. We're going to strive and work towards 100% involvement in person. So please prioritize. We'll make it worth your while. It's always a joy to be in the same room with each other and build community, find out about kids, see pictures, do all of the things that we should be doing as a community working together. So please prioritize that meeting for in person, and we will remind you of that. So now yes, go ahead.
Jennifer, I wanted to just highlight something that I did not know about, but is possibly important for people to know. Maybe they already know it. Is that if you have travel expenses related to coming to the meeting in person, they will be reimbursed.
Yes.
So that doesn't get to be an excuse.
Yes, it doesn't get to be an excuse. They can approve a hotel stay for you. Your mileage can be paid for, and I think some other expenses in there as well. So please go ahead and put it on your calendar and make that a priority. Thank you for bringing that up, Leslie. So at this time, we will adjourn. and hang tight, and you'll be put into your